What is good, people? I hope you're all alright. I am James, I'm an aspiring videographer, cinematographer, and in today's session I want to go over 5 things that will get you started on your video journey so much quicker. Well, hopefully. So I'm trying to look at this from a lens of how I got started and what would I say to myself if I was to get started for the first time. So that's how I've kind of looked at these. And some of these might be simple, some of these might be obscure, I don't know, but I just kind of put these down because a lot of these they've come with reason, if that makes sense. So let's get into it. So let's start with number 1, frame rate. Now, frame rate might seem like one of the most simplest things, but in actual fact, frame rate is something that can be used to tell story and everything else. But for what we want to do in this particular task, let's say you've picked up a camera for the first time, a lot of this is just to understand what frame rates are and how I can use them. i.e., if you're using 60 frames, 50 frames if it's PAL in UK, Europe maybe, 50, 60 frames, 100 to 120 frames, this is slow motion. So that's what we want to be using that down. We want to be slowing that down in post after. And then if we're using anything from 24 to 25 frames, maybe 30 frames if you are in America, these are frames that we can use just for standard filming. Now, you could literally use everything in slow motion, as I'll be honest with you guys, at one point, that's all I did. So there you go, have that. And some people might say you can't overuse it, but I think the more we get into these things and the more you do and start understanding what purpose everything has and start realizing that 60 to 120 frames per second start absolutely killing the amount of data you are using. But aside from that, everything has its purpose. Understand what these are. Like I said, 25, 24 and 30 are something what you can just use as seeing everyday life and everything else. And anything above that, 60s, 50s, 120s, 100 and on to the rest will be what we're going to use for slow motion. So that's something we want to use. When I first picked up a camera, that's something I didn't have a clue how to use or what I was using. I just picked 60 because it was higher, so I thought it must be better. Never thought really much of it and what the purpose was, what that was for. But hey, that's what we're here to do, and so this is what it's all about, is learning on the journey. So number two actually is linked to number 1, and that is shutter speed. Now, shutter speed is something that is, I would say, is intrinsically linked. We use something called the 1/80 rule, which is basically whatever your frame rate is, we want the shutter speed at double that. So if you're at 25 frames per second, you're going to be wanting using 1/50 shutter speed. Now, just to give you a little caveat, if you're in America and the States and whatnot, and you're using 24 frames, 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to be having the 1/80, which is still 1/50 for your shutter speed. So don't worry about a couple here and there, a couple shutter speeds. That was terrible. Don't worry about the numbers exactly. The rough ballpark is where you want to be. But by using the shutter speed gives us something what we call motion blur. So when you see this hand moving like this motion blur you're seeing on the camera right now is literally the 1/80 rule taking effect. If you was to crank up that shutter speed, you would see it a lot more clearly on the way that my hand's doing it. You won't see this blur or anything else. That's what we start. That's why you're using it higher shutter speeds, if you like, for slow motions and everything else. So I believe when I first did my first video on the camera I got, I'm pretty sure I had no idea what my shutter speed was, and if I would look back now, I'd probably say it was an absolute mess. But did it take away how much I enjoyed the video and what I did? No, it didn't. But using these good practices now is a good way just to get into these kind of things. And don't get me wrong, guys, even when I've been on set before and I'm filming, I have accidentally clipped the shutter speeds and things like that and realised after, like, oh god, I'm 1/30 and I've got a little bit more blur. Sometimes it can be a bad thing, sometimes you can get away with it. So it's not the end of the world, but if we can do these things right now, it makes a lot of things easier in the long run. Okay, so number 3, lens. Now, I've picked lens on the basis that I'm not wanting you to go out there. I'm not wanting you to sit and understand how exactly lenses work and everything else. It's just, all this is to get you started quicker, to understand how the camera works, how the lens works and everything else. So most cameras come with a kit lens. So if cameras come with a kit lens, use it. That kit lens is there for a reason. It's a really versatile piece of equipment. I got hung up on the fact of having a blurry background, so I went out and sort of buying and spending money before you even need to do that. There's so much more stuff that you need to do to do some cohesive imagery, video, just everything about it. You do not need a crazy ass you don't need a crazy lens what's super fast, what you need in dark light, unless you're constantly, all you're doing is filming at night time. Then all right, then fair dues, low light, get a lens. But at the start of this, go out in the day, learn how to use your camera, learn how to get the right composition and angles and symmetry and leading light, all this kind of stuff, what can make some really kind of beautiful images. Go and learn that stuff, and then when we start getting better, then we can talk about it. But your kit lens is a great place to start. I would highly recommend it. I've been on jobs with a kit lens. People don't really notice. People really don't notice. It's amazing how us as artists and creators can get so lost in the tech side of things because it looks like the thing, and it's probably maybe 2 to 5% really of what the finished product is, when really what they want is some really kind of cool footage, which who cares about blurry backgrounds? You still can get blurry backgrounds with kit lenses, and just you needed to just get as far away from that background as you possibly can and get as close to the camera. But for now, get out there using a kit lens. Just start understanding how that camera and lens work, especially if they a variable zoom. You get to understand what different focal lengths are about, and that is something that could be so beneficial for you in the long run. So lenses, kit lenses, approved. They are good. So yes, guys. So number 4, carrying off the back, I suppose, of the lens. Seems we keep doing this. This kind of carries on to number 3. But number 4, I've got down as autofocus. Now, I put autofocus in because this was a crutch when I was getting into things. I don't think it's such a big thing now. I actually picked my camera on the basis of between 2 cameras. It was a Blackmagic, or I decided to go with the Canon R6. Now, I would say that the Blackmagic, from a colour bit depth and just an overall general style of camera, is probably the better camera in the sense of the specs. But for me, I wanted something what was versatile, something that I would be a one-man band doing this on my own, a bit of image stabilization, good autofocus, all these kind of things that are tools to help me do and tell my story cohesively and help me do the job that I need to do. So I decided to spring for an R6. Now, don't be wrong, the R6 comes with its pros and cons, but my point I'm trying to say to you is that autofocus is a tool, and when you're getting into things for the first time, there is nothing wrong with learning the autofocus system and doing the autofocus and learning manual focus, whatever it is. The main purpose of this is just to learn the camera, and by learning the camera you have to get out there and start using it. So use autofocus, just use the standard autofocus if you need to. Do you know what I mean? Learn how to put area autofocus and everything else in between. There's some amazing systems out there, especially on the newer cameras, and you don't have to spend a lot of money for them. They're very, very good. Your Canons and Sonys are very, very good and capable cameras for autofocus. So guys, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed of using autofocus. It can get you out of a sticky situation, trust me. Okay. And that's it, guys. Up to number 5, the final one, and not the last, if you like. There's many more what we could have put in this list, but 5 is something what I wanted to go away from all the camera bits and bobs and everything else, which is probably focused on 2 things, which is lenses and obviously just the frame rates. But this is mainly just get out there and start filming. There's a multitude of other things that we can go over, which is composition, like I say, and symmetry and leading lines, all these kind of things, in order to create some amazing images and movement, yada yada yada. It doesn't matter really. The first thing is you need to go out there and understand how to use the camera, because if you're spending hours just setting up a camera to understand how it works, you're going to miss a lot of opportunity to do things. So the quicker you can get up to speed, turning that camera on, getting it ready, you can start worrying about all the other stuff. So get out there and start filming. I would say with that in mind, you will start to make leaps and bounds with that straight off the bat, and just enjoy the process of filming. The more you learn the camera, the easier things become. You go on YouTube, learn how to use that camera maybe. The more videos you consume and the more you go out and do, the more you learn, and the more enjoyable the next part of the process gets. And that's what I wanted to round it up with the number 5 of that. Now, like I said, there's many more things that we could have added into this. Many more. But for me, I just looked at it in the sense of, how do we get started? How do we just know when we turn that camera on, how can I go out there and start pointing and shooting? And for me, these are the few things what will make such a difference. Frame rate, shutter speed, lenses, knowing the lens, what you're going to be using, things like that, getting your autofocus sorted, and then just go out there and start doing what you want to do. And once you see the images you get and what you're working with, you can start to then make adjustments, understand what you do like, what you don't like, and the rest is kind of history, guys. That's how I've always found it. I hope that's something that you take on board and you try yourself, and maybe you agree with some of these tips or these points, and maybe you don't. Maybe you've got a few that you think would be different. Do you know what? Put them down in the comments. Let's create a conversation on that. But fundamentally, guys, that's the five in a nutshell. All right, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for stopping till the end. If you've managed to get here, again, yeah. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one, and I'll catch you later. Thanks.